Before we dive into the darkness of this case, hit subscribe, like this video, and tell me in the comments what you would have done, because what investigators first thought was a tragic accident would soon turn into a mystery that would haunt an entire city. It started on a cold Thursday morning in early October. At 7:42 a.m., a maintenance worker named Carl Denson was making his usual rounds at the Harbor View Hotel in Seattle. The building stood near the waterfront, an aging 12-story structure known mostly for budget travelers, tourists, and the occasional business guest looking for something cheap and quiet. Carl had worked there for 9 years. He had seen everything: loud parties, drunk tourists, even the occasional police visit. But that morning, something felt wrong before he even reached the service hallway on the 9th floor. A small crowd had gathered near the stairwell. 2 guests were whispering nervously. A housekeeper stood frozen near her cart, staring down the concrete steps. Carl pushed through. At the bottom of the stairwell landing lay a young woman. Her body was still. Her arm twisted beneath her. The fall had clearly been severe. Within minutes, hotel management called emergency services. Police arrived shortly after, sealing off the stairwell with yellow tape while paramedics confirmed what everyone already suspected. The woman was dead. Her name was identified through her hotel records: Natalie Cross, 24 years old. She had checked in 2 nights earlier. According to the front desk, Natalie was traveling alone. Her ID listed a home address in Portland, Oregon, though staff remembered very little about her. She had been polite, quiet, and kept mostly to herself. At first glance, the scene appeared simple. The stairwell door on the 10th floor was slightly open. The railing above the landing was low enough that a fall, especially if someone slipped, was possible. Detective Aaron Whitaker was assigned the case by noon. Whitaker had worked homicide for 14 years, and he had learned one rule early: accidents inside hotels were rarely as simple as they looked. Still, the initial evidence seemed straightforward. There were no visible signs of struggle. No defensive wounds. No one reported hearing screaming during the night. Natalie's room, room 1016, showed no damage or forced entry. Her luggage sat neatly beside the bed. Her wallet and passport remained on the dresser. Her phone, however, was missing. Hotel staff confirmed Natalie had last been seen the previous evening around 9:30 p.m., when she returned from dinner and walked through the lobby alone. One receptionist remembered something small but strange. She looked distracted, the woman told police. Like she was watching someone behind her. Whitaker wrote it down but didn't think much of it. People traveling alone often felt uneasy. The preliminary report leaned toward an accidental fall sometime after midnight. Perhaps she had gone exploring the stairwell. Perhaps she slipped. The medical examiner estimated the fall occurred around 2 a.m. By late afternoon, the investigation was nearly ready to be closed as an accidental death. Then Detective Whitaker asked a simple question. Does the hotel have security cameras? The answer changed everything. Harbor View had cameras in the lobby, hallways, elevators, and parking areas. A technician from hotel management pulled the footage. Whitaker sat in a small office behind the front desk, watching the screen as the timeline rolled back to the previous night. At 9:31 p.m., Natalie stepped into the elevator alone. She pressed the button for the 10th floor. The footage showed her holding her phone tightly in one hand. She kept glancing over her shoulder. Whitaker noticed something else. Natalie looked afraid. The elevator doors closed. The video switched to the 10th floor hallway camera. At 9:32 p.m., the elevator doors opened. Natalie stepped out. But she didn't walk toward her room immediately. Instead, she paused. Her head turned slowly down the hallway. Like she was listening. Then she hurried to room 1016 and disappeared inside. Hours passed on the footage. Guests moved through the hall occasionally. Housekeeping carts rolled by earlier in the evening. Nothing unusual. Then the timestamp reached 1:57 a.m. Natalie's door opened again. She stepped into the hallway. But this time, something was very wrong. She looked panicked. Her hair was messy, like she had been pacing or running her hands through it. She clutched her phone tightly against her chest. She walked quickly toward the stairwell door. Whitaker leaned closer to the screen. Natalie stopped just before entering the stairwell. She turned. and looked directly behind her. But the hallway camera showed nothing there. No one. The stairwell door opened. She slipped inside. 30 seconds later, the door opened again. Whitaker's breath caught in his throat. Natalie didn't come back out. Someone else did. A tall figure wearing a dark hoodie stepped into the hallway. Their face hidden. They paused. Then they calmly walked toward the elevator. Whitaker rewound the footage 3 times. Every time it was the same. Natalie entered the stairwell alone. But someone else walked out. And that meant the fall in the stairwell wasn't an accident at all. But the most disturbing discovery came seconds later. Because just before the hooded figure entered the elevator, they did something that made Detective Whitaker sit upright in his chair. They turned their head slightly toward the hallway camera. And lifted their hand. Not in panic. Not in fear. But slowly. Deliberately. Like they knew the camera was there. And they were waving at it. The moment Detective Aaron Whitaker saw the hooded figure lift their hand toward the camera, the entire case changed. What had looked like a tragic accident was now something else entirely. Something planned. The room inside the Harborview security office went quiet as the footage replayed again. The figure in the dark hoodie stepped calmly out of the stairwell, paused in the hallway, and lifted their hands slowly toward the camera. A wave. Not hurried. Not panicked. Almost mocking. Whitaker leaned closer to the screen. Zoom in on the face, he told the technician. The image sharpened slightly, but the person had positioned the hood carefully. Their head was tilted downward, keeping their features hidden from the camera. They knew exactly where the blind spots were. That alone told Whitaker something important. This wasn't random. The person moved down the hallway and stepped into the elevator. The elevator camera captured a clearer image: average height, slender build, dark jeans, gloves, and a loose black hoodie zipped nearly to the chin. Still no visible face. The elevator doors closed. The next camera showed the lobby. At 2:03 a.m., the elevator opened. The hooded figure stepped into the empty lobby and walked directly toward the exit. Not once did they look nervous. Not once did they hurry. They moved with the calm confidence of someone who knew exactly what they were doing. Outside, the parking lot camera captured the final image. A dark sedan waited near the curb with its engine running. The figure entered the passenger side. The car drove away. Whitaker wrote down the time. 2:04 a.m. But one detail stood out immediately. The car's license plate was partially visible. Not enough to read clearly, but enough to identify the state. Washington. Natalie Cross was from Oregon. Which meant the person who picked up the hooded figure likely lived nearby. Whitaker turned to his partner, Detective Maya Chen. "Run the plate frame," he said. Chen froze the footage and zoomed in on the back of the vehicle. The license plate was blurred, but the dealership frame surrounding it was sharp. Cascade Auto Group, Seattle. It was a start. Meanwhile, another team processed the stairwell where Natalie had fallen. Forensic technicians worked slowly, scanning every inch of the concrete steps. At first, they found very little. But then a technician called out, "Detective!" Whitaker approached. Near the metal railing on the 10th floor landing was a faint scuff mark on the paint. Just below it, something else. A smear. Dark red. Blood. But not from the fall. The lab confirmed it later that afternoon. The blood belonged to Natalie, but the pattern suggested it happened before she went over the railing. Someone had grabbed her there. And that meant the fall was forced. The search for the hooded figure intensified. Police pulled every nearby traffic camera within a 1-mile radius. The dark sedan appeared again 2 blocks from the hotel, turning onto Harbor Street. Then another camera captured it stopping briefly at a red light. This time, the license plate became clearer. Whitaker read the numbers aloud. 7 K 3 something 9. Chen was already typing. Within minutes, the DMV database returned a match. The vehicle belonged to a Ryan Calder. Age 28. Local resident. Works as a freelance videographer. Whitaker frowned. What's his connection to Natalie? They searched quickly. No obvious link appeared. No shared workplace. No shared address. But when Chen checked social media, something strange appeared. Ryan Calder had posted a photo 3 months earlier. A crowd shot from a downtown music festival. At first glance it looked ordinary. But when Chen zoomed in, Natalie Cross was standing in the background, smiling, right beside him. The photo had been tagged by someone else. Whitaker stared at the screen. They knew each other. Or at least had crossed paths before. Police moved quickly. By early evening, officers were outside Ryan Calder's apartment building. The lights inside were on. But when they knocked, no one answered. A neighbor opened her door across the hallway. "Looking for Ryan?" she asked. Whitaker nodded. The woman hesitated. "He left this morning. Really early." "What time?" "Maybe 6? I heard him dragging something heavy down the hallway." Whitaker's stomach tightened. "What kind of something?" The woman shook her head. "I don't know. But it sounded like luggage." Police forced entry. Inside Ryan Calder's apartment, the air smelled faintly of bleach. The living room was spotless. Too spotless. The forensic team began their sweep immediately. Within minutes, luminol lit up faint traces across the hardwood floor. Someone had tried to clean something. But the most disturbing discovery was in the bedroom. On Ryan Calder's desk sat 3 monitors connected to a powerful editing computer. And on the screen, frozen mid-playback, was a paused video file. The timestamp read 1:56 a.m. The footage showed the hallway of the Harbor View Hotel. Natalie's door. And the moment she stepped out, Whitaker felt the room grow colder. Ryan Calder hadn't just been there. He had been watching, recording, following her. And as the forensic tech clicked through the folder of files, they discovered something that made the entire investigation far more terrifying. Because Natalie Cross wasn't the only person Ryan Calder had been filming. There were dozens of other videos. Other women. Different hotels. Different nights. All unaware they were being watched. But the final video file in the folder had a name that stopped Whitaker cold.